Ready now?
Welcome, everybody, to San Antonio by Night, the first episode of 2020. Welcome to the new year. We do have a little bit of an announcement to make as far as the out of character stuff goes for the game. Our friend Spectre Deflector will be returning to the game next week. Uh, with a brand new character. They will not be reprising their role as Wolf. Instead, they will be bringing new blood to the Alamo City. On that note, our dear friend Loriander, who plays Tom, is not able to join us tonight, and so we are having yet again another solo session with the satanic priest Urien Doyle.
Try not to sound too disappointed.
Of course not. But in that regard, the the efforts of Urien have led him to contact Baron Batista at one point and was able to potentially convince her that the problem that she has with a certain Ventru coming to town from the Camarilla might be better placed on his shoulders, because instead of her having to accept a particular role in accordance with Dignitas, a word that really only Ventru know. Urien, why don't you give us a little bit of insight as to why it is that you know about Dignitas?
Let us keep it that my sire was a good teacher. But more importantly, it does well to end up knowing the Ventru. Each of the clans may end up bringing something about, but the Ventru were the architects to the Camarilla. They ended up crafting it brick by brick. They know it well. They've crafted it. And among the anarchs, it's best to know your enemy. Knowing your enemy means that you know the rules they bind themselves by. It makes you aware of what it is that they're planning. It was a useful tool, one that ended up helping quite a bit in Jackson, I'm afraid.
Well, you are certainly very knowledgeable about all things that, probably more than most, really, about the Camarilla in San Antonio. And it's certainly interesting. But aside from that, your troubles through the city have also led you to a new coterie member by the name of Tom.
Tom, the doctor, yes. The He is very young and very wide-eyed. He sets out to practice and hopes to end up doing well for himself. And I wish him the best of luck, I really do. Though it's a little short-sighted, I don't see any true flaw in allowing him to indulge himself for a few years. Give him a chance to settle down, know the city, and then be ready to change faces when he needs to. I mourn a bit, though, as he is, well, he was brought to me by a fellow Tremere, and unfortunately, this means that there will be certain issues that will be creeping up in his life. I have no doubt that should I turn a blind eye to anything he has to do, it will come back to haunt me. I only hope I can guide him well, but this is San Antonio after all. You can't trust much of anything you see.
No, you certainly can't. And so that brings us to the events of tonight. It has been a night, maybe two, since you were introduced to Tom. And tonight is a particularly interesting night in that it is a gathering night. A night that you have orchestrated yourself to foster relations with more people of this city in a fairly small subsection of religious people, Satanists.
Uh, well, those who follow the path, or those who are simply curious. Wisdom finds its way one way or another, but the onus is on them to listen.
Mm.
Still, I am curious how the evening will persist. I have finished the preparations and have already begun with the opening spectacles. Nothing overly gaudy, I hate to say it, but truth of the matter is we have no collection plate, shall we say. Though if any were to donate or what have you, I'm sure that would be more in keeping with a paid of performance rather than a true church. The idea of an actual church is detestable, is given the practices I have are specifically made as a grotesque parody of Catholicism.
Mm. A very strong presence of Catholicism in this particular city. So it's actually very interesting that you would model it as a mockery of such. If I could get a rouse check from you, you are successful at staving off your beast this evening. It's not
Well,
nearly as noisy.
it shouldn't be. The last time it involved us playing with a bit of fire.
Mm.
Because I need to end up making it very aware on who holds whose leash here. Cage it, bind it, do what you must.
Seems to be listening to you this evening. So we we come to the middle of a a field, a house, tall windows, very plain to look at on the outside, mostly a single room dwelling. But it is here that you have gathered a small worship service of sorts. And there are a couple of faces that you do recognize. There's a couple that are new to this particular scene, and a couple of those familiar faces being Shelley, Doc, as you call her, who you invited personally, and your one contact, Levy, who is maybe a little bit more indulgent than most, but that's not really a sin in your circles. So why don't you tell us about how it is that this particular service is ending?
It's at this point I have ended up entertaining myself in that I've placed myself in the front of the room. I have recently ended up giving the, shall we say, sir, upon the idea of, well, one of my favorite failings. One thing that cannot be abided, and that there is self-deceit. The truth is that we all deceive ourselves in one fashion or another. We say we're doing this for the public good. We're doing this for because we're a good person. We do this for a righteous cause. Very rarely do you find somebody who's self-aware enough and honest enough with themselves to tell exactly why it is they do what they do. That will oftentimes end up leading you down tracks you did not wish, that afford you no gain of which you actually sought. You find yourself drifting aimlessly. The To deceive others can be considered a form of manipulation, but to deceive yourself is to blind yourself to the world around you. The worst of it is when you lie to yourself to appease those around, because then you cannot be honest with yourself even behind closed doors. You must maintain your own masquerade, so to speak, going around public and trying to end up appeasing, doing everything the right way, when it was never your way to begin with. I, at this point, have Levy bring his girlfriend as we end up discussing or not discussing, we demonstrate the drinking of wine, whereas if you were to imbibe this bread, for it is my body, and this wine, for it is my, it is my blood. Here, it's a little bit more of an erotic display, and me having a little bit of fun with a wink and a nudge to Levy. This girl is beautiful, but to say no to the indulgence unto itself would be a sin. And she very much enjoys it. She enjoys the attention, the ability to let loose, and the power it gives her to have an entire room hungrily looking at her, and a room where we don't have to hide such ambitions. Still, once it is finished, I end up concluding the service, raising my hands, giving all praise to the ungodly figure of our esteem. We are grateful to Satan for showing us the way. It's at that point I conclude the service. I, as a gentleman, end up helping her off the altar. I offer her a robe to cover herself should she need it. She doesn't tie it up, though. She allows everything in front to be exposed, simply to keep out the chill from her shoulders as she goes back to her boy toy. And I wonder which one of them is really the toy in that relationship, but that is their own problems to handle.
Hmm.
And I believe once Levy has a chance to mm, enjoy himself with her presence, and after I make the rounds, introducing myself to all of the newcomers, hoping they appreciated the show.
And of
If
course,
I'm not still,
among the
go on.
newcomers, there are a couple of shy eyes who are still getting used to the idea of how open these particular services can be, but it doesn't take long for their shyness to melt away. And so when you do make the rounds and introduce yourself to them and they introduce themselves to you, They do thank you for the service and let you know that they did enjoy this show and hope to be invited again.
Of course. If you wish to end up getting in contact, please do end up keeping in contact with Levy. He'll be the one to be able to address when he'll be arriving next. It's a formality of sorts, but I trust he is a good judge of character. And please, don't be so off put. That shyness is something that will abandon itself once you come to realize that nothing is forbidden, so long as it is with the consent of the other. To give away your own power is almost as egregious as to take it away from another. Take Levy's girl, for instance. She does not mind. She offers freely. But it is her choice to make. And that is the important distinction. Should one of you find another, consider it like a bender. And go for it. Go ask. And when nothing is forbidden, well, it's time to learn of yourself.
And so a few of the newcomers begin to make their way out of the building, and after mingling a bit and things getting a little less populated. There's not many people who are here, but as soon as a few of the newcomers start to leave, there you start to realize that there's a man outside the door who's watching as all of them leave. Never came inside, but he just watches and leers at people as they leave the premises. And you know this man. This is Tyson Trent, a local pastor.
Well, far be it from me to end up ignoring the man who so kindly waits at my door. I apologize to those around me as I have something to discuss, apparently, and I kind of looked at Doc. She and I had a discussion earlier, you may recall, of closed minds. And we're about to have a demonstration, I suspect. He approaches the doorway, and even so far as to go about and escort the last of them out, wishing them well. And he does so. He looks, Father Trent, so good of you to say. Come, I wish you would have ended up stepping inside.
Simply had to come and make sure that these people get home safe.
Well, barring anybody having a traffic accident for their own stupidity, well, maybe I have a little bit more faith in them than that. So what brings you out here? If looking for lost sheep? Perhaps one or two of your own congregation were here.
Maybe, maybe not.
I'd like to insight that.
Go for it.
Wits?
Yes, wits plus insight, please.
I'll spend a willpower to reroll.
Okay.
No. Okay.
You definitely know when it is that he's being purposefully vague And in this particular moment, he's being purposefully vague, but you can't necessarily pin down what part of that is true. Whether someone from his congregation was here or they weren't, you're not entirely sure.
Hmm. Well, do not worry. I don't intend to leave any permanent scars.
What your methods are wrong, Mr. Doyle. Why why must you try in your I'm having a hard time actually understanding why it is that you would worship the devil. And I know that you and I have
Well,
had this discussion before, but it, it still boggles my mind. How are you able to attract people?
it's quite simple. Everyone grows tired of being told how they are born wrong, shackled to sin that they had no part of because of some bitch with an apple. And the fact of the matter is because of one individual unable to keep their mouth shut, were suddenly damned. And what was it that they've hungered for? Knowledge. It was knowledge that damned us. I end up disagreeing with that sentiment wholly. Knowledge, pride, developing oneself to be more than just a sheep, to be more than a follower of some corpse nailed to wood, to
But,
be a follower of themselves. That's that's what does it for me.
but the sin that we're born into, it is by the blood of the Lord Jesus that actually keeps us from having to go through torment in eternity. Aren't you worried for your immortal soul?
Uh, well, the first would imply that I have to believe in a soul.
Everybody
I
has a
do
soul,
not.
Mr. Doyle.
Perhaps. But if that were the case, let us remind ourselves on who put this wonderful little bit of clockwork in mind in the first place. Still, you came here for direction. You came here to check on my little black mass. Next time you wish to end up dropping by, and if you want to chaperone, by all means. I would never end up rejecting you. Yeah, Father Trent. I think of you as a wonderful sounding board, one who is very much capable of proving my point night after night.
Well,
You're a useful man like that, and I can appreciate that.
our conversations are stimulating, that's for sure.
Well, that's one
Can't
of the
say I
reasons
agree
why
with you.
people.
And for all intents and purposes, do you own this place, Mr. Doyle? Because if you don't, it kind of looks to me like you're trespassing.
Hmm. Well, if that were the case, then it would appear to me that we both are. So, if you wish, we can end up going in together. I'll gladly have that one explained.
Nah, I thought I'd just remind you, young
Mm,
man.
well, I try to end up listening to my elders from time to time. They sometimes come up with a good idea. But if you're so concerned, you can always end up offering your church for allowing us after hours practice,
I,
a place that you know safe, secure, already has an altar and some pews. I assure you will
I
clean
am
all the
not.
bodily fluids.
I am not allowing you into that holy place to put your finagling all over the fucking carpet.
Well, to be fair, I'm not the one often doing the finagling, but that being said, you end up understanding that you're always welcome here, and if you wished for an invitation, just tell me. I would gladly have you on the guest list.
I'm good. I'm good where my soul is.
Are you sure about that?
Pretty damn sure, Mr. Doyle.
A funny thing about that, the we did end up having a discussion on self-deceit, which was amusing. You ended up saying you're pretty damn sure, which, believe it or not, in my circles, would be damning unto itself. Um, you are familiar with solipsism, yes?
I don't know that I've heard that term.
Uh, it is a presumption that you, uh, the people around you, including your desert sky daddy, have the same mind, act the same way, with the same desires, that you are mirrors of one another.
We try to be.
Mm, how much ego does it require to say I'm going to model myself after God?
It's
I believe pride
perfection's
is one
not
of your.
achievable, Mr. Doyle, but we can always try. And by the grace of God, we will be there one day.
No, no. The person who sits praying and hoping for the grace of God to deliver them is ultimately damning themselves. The person who takes action, the person who molds their life, the one who realizes their own power and learns to cultivate it, that person will claim heaven on earth.
No one said anything about sitting around doing nothing.
Uh, you keep praying to your beloved Jesus. See if he moves aside a few stones for you. Maybe comes down. You do still have that life-size figure of him on the cross, yes? How
Yeah.
morbid is it that you are praying to the icon of someone being tortured? uh, I'd find it more amusing if it wasn't so sick. At least we end up worshipping to the sound of two individuals making love. Or just rough fucking one way or the other. But you actually worship before a bleeding man who is being hung upon a piece of wood to asphyxiate himself for days on end. That is so perverse, don't you find?
I don't like your tone.
What is it about my tone you do not like?
Like, what is it about? What is it about my belief system, sir, that makes you want to attack?
Uh, it's not that I wish to attack. Um, that would imply that there was something worth going after. No. What I am here to do, well, you're a man of God. You of course know that the Satan is the accuser, Hebrew, right? So mine is the accuser, and I look at him as a model of what we can be. Much like you look at Jesus. The difference is that with Jesus, you ended up finding the model of a man whose value was entirely on what he could give to others. Self-sacrifice. The idea that his sole value came from the fact that he was born Son of God. And then, suddenly, he gave it all up, talking to his daddy and saying, they know not what they do. And did God come to help him? No. He just died and then rolled over and raised as some decrepit corpse who approached a few wandering travelers and told them, go spread the message. But it was only for what he could do. That was it. But now everybody is dependent on him. Whereas you take a look at Satan, and he ended up accumulating, showing us the ability to question, to look at things and to wonder, to develop perspective, and to end up asking. Because no one questioned Job of his faith except for Satan. Satan was the only one who was brave enough to do so. Whether his faith was wanting or not was not the point. The point to that story, Tyson, is that somebody asked. What, you did not think I read the Bible as well?
No, I didn't. I expected as much.
I am so glad. Well,
But I still preach the love of Jesus. Just as you preach what it is that you preach about Satan.
ours is not a faith for the weak-hearted, and I would not pressure it upon you. You're getting older, and I'm not sure on how fit you have kept yourself. Though I have to admit, you've had quite the run so far. I look forward to seeing further conversations. If there's nothing else, Father Trent, I have to finish up here. And after all, I'd hate to leave the place. I hate to leave the Black Mass a black mess.
Clever. Good evening, Mr. Doyle. And that is when he begins to walk away.
He's still driving the same car as usual.
Always. It's that old beater Oldsmobile that probably went out of production in the 90s.
Mm. I think I will buy that man a new car.
How generous.
Uh, oh, not generous. I just would love to end up seeing the. I would love to end up seeing his reaction, just to mess with him a bit. What do the kids call it these days? Trolling. Still, I end up returning, and afterwards, seeing the remainders, and hopefully have a few people going through. I first go towards Levy. After all, Doc is going to be a longer conversation.
You see Levy and his girlfriend who have since made themselves a little bit more appropriate for leaving the premises have begun to do what they can to kind of organize things, clean up, and make things look exactly as you had found it. Begins picking up his implements, leaving you to tend to your implements, and just begins to clean up the entire space.
Levy.
Mm. Hey,
My child. I have to thank you again for bringing such a wonderful assortment of young flesh.
mm,
I have to end up wondering, Is there any of them you know particularly well? Ones that are up for a little bit more involvement hands-on?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Mm, like, are you talking about more of the same, or are we talking about something different?
Oh, it depends. The change, we're growing and it's going to require some things to change. Some things need to be done after mass, some things need to be done in between.
Hmm.
So I thought I would end up making sure that I know who I'm dealing with,
Hmm.
and I trust your judge of character.
So you're looking for somebody who's maybe like cleanup duty or something of that sort, or are we talking your
We're
own
talking.
personal toy? Wink, wink.
Oh, I assure you, I have thought of that one more than once.
Hmm.
But I have to end up saying that you're going I'm going to end up wanting to expand, and that means that
Hmm.
I'm going to need individuals who can drive, people who have trucks, people who are capable of doing some heavy lifting, and I am on the search right now for a particular donor to be able to end up assisting in giving us proper grounds, something with a little bit more privacy. I
Hmm.
like the way this is up in the middle of nowhere, but if I can make it more convenient for
Hmm.
others while making it more private, I think people might, what's the term, be less afraid to while in out. While in out, that is the expression, yes.
Uh, maybe. Uh,
it's it's quite alright, Lovey. But thank you. Yeah, I clasp on the shoulder. You have been a great help.
I mean, I enjoy everything, so you know.
I know you do. You both do. Madam, thank you very much. I would love to have a further conversation with you, but I would not strip you away from Levy's good company. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go speak with a personal friend of mine.
Yeah. I'll give that thing. I'll give it some thought because I may know somebody, but their name's just not clicking on the top of my head right now.
Don't don't worry about it, Levy. Don't worry about it.
Meta wit.
Everything in its time.
Everything in
I
its time.
imagine you're still having a I imagine you're still having a bit of a head rush after all that. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. You two take care. And with that, Urien gives a nod and starts walking towards the dock.
Yep. And she is also doing her best to clean up the space and in a not really touching anything kind of way, just kind of making sure that things are clean.
Doc, I understand your need for everything to be sterile, and I assure you I did all I could. But you're not here to clean. You're here to witness, to enjoy, and I did end up saying I would let you in on the performance. But I would not have you on my altar just yet. Not unless you were willing for that one. But
I think that's a bit much for me this early in.
I'd imagine so. Still, a man can dream.
Don't dream too hard. You might you might be thinking ahead of yourself, Mr. Doyle.
And yet, if I didn't, where would I be?
Mm. Always
It
thinking
is
2 steps ahead, aren't you?
have to be. But I digress.
Mm.
I hope you enjoyed the spectacle.
I did. It
And
was certainly interesting. I've never been to a black mass before.
well, he kind of leans in, whispering, "Given your vocation, I would have thought this would have been quite tame compared to some of the more interesting stories you have to tell."
Is that what you're interested in tonight?
No, what I'm interested in tonight is good company, good friends,
Hmm.
and a wonderful hostess who happened to make my evening just that little bit brighter, like a northern star.
She can't help but smile at that.
But that being said, I was wondering if there's anything I can do for you, dog.
Personally, are we talking business? I have a hard time telling with you.
To me, they may as well be one and the same.
Hmm. I don't think I have anything really of particular note that you can help me with at the moment. You did say something about company.
Always. But, yes, I am always a little worried. As you can see by Father Trent over there, I occasionally draw the wrong type of people.
Who is
And
he?
unfortunately, some pastor who, when he caught wind of what I was doing, decided to take exception to it. I suspect that one of his congregation was here this evening, and he was concerned about their immortal soul.
As a
What a
pastor
kind shepherd.
should, of course, but
He is a kind shepherd. I do not begrudge him that. Ours is a difference in faith, not in responsibility.
hmm. So
Still,
why come and bother you of all people? There's plenty of other non-Christian religions around here.
I think it has to do with the fact that every other religion would have a belief to be shared,
Hmm.
to describe God or gods or whatever it is you would believe in, something of a higher nature, higher spiritual. That would be the key to it.
Hmm.
Mine, however, is primarily that of parody. I take what is established and I turn it around, I twist it to let them look at it in a light that makes them a little less comfortable because they start to see themselves in it.
Hmm.
After all, every Sunday somebody is committing cannibalism.
I don't think that that's true, but
Why not? This is my body. This is my blood. You are literally eating God.
I've always been a woman of science and I've never actually witnessed a true transubstantiation, so can't say that it's real. At least not to me.
Well, that's just it. It's not. But if we were to place in or put in its place something a little bit more real, hmm, to drink of to drink of blood and to eat of flesh, well,
It's a
go
little
over
bit
there,
more
give
morbid.
no, give Levy there a razor, and he'll put a nice little cut that she'll suck on all day while he eats her out. This is my blood. This is my body. It is taking what is and twisting it to make them see it in another light. That is why he does not like me.
Hmm.
because he himself presumes many things, and in doing so, it has caused him issue. Then when he sees me and bringing in youth and people learning to think in a way that does not make him comfortable, he cannot abide it.
Hmm.
So he cannot abide me.
Because mean old Mr. Doyle is the one that's causing it, isn't it?
Oh, I am most assuredly the meanest.
That's a lie.
Maybe. I am unsure myself. But, Doc, I hope you have a pleasant ride home. I will end up finishing with the cleanup, and if there's anything that comes to mind, I'll be in touch. After all, we help each other.
That we do.
As Urien passes her, he starts to clean. She walks, and as she passes him, maybe when she's not looking, kind of looks her up and down, then looks back to Levy and his girl. I can't help but feel a little bit envious in that regard. He could force the issue, of course, but where's the fun in that? So much fun is the chase.
As you're looking back at her, you swear, for the briefest of moments, she's looking you up and down too. And she walks out of the building and begins to move towards her car.
I'm using sense the unseen as I go about it. I am double checking. I am unsure if they were followed. I have no doubt that the Nosferatu have traced her at some point. They're probably still mad about what they did to Wolf. But if they didn't let him off the leash so soon, maybe that could have been avoided. Still, I am wee bit paranoid, shall we say.
Hmm. Taking a look around, it is the dead of night. It is somewhere around 1 a.m. It's even with your supernatural sight to see the unseen. It is still dark out, and it's hard to make out any shapes if there are any. But that doesn't assuage that paranoia that you have. There could be someone watching. They may be hiding themselves in the shadows of the night, further away from the building. They could be. They're definitely not near the house if they're here.
That's fine. Let them watch. Let them take note wherever they want. So long as they're willing to sit and watch, I'll give them something to watch and sure. Still, I continue to clean up. I thank Levy and his girl in time. And once everything's set out, obviously checking the van, making sure everything is in order,
Hmm.
and if nothing else, I think now is a wonderful time to just scout about and see if I can find, well, what's been going on in my domain. I want to get updated.
Hmm.
There's a certain rhythm I am starting to catch on to, a certain, um, how should I put this, routine,
Hmm.
where I am going to particular places. It could be just a corner store, the one with the cell or with the phones
Mm-hmm.
and talk to the cashier because I am a familiar face. I sometimes will end up going down to the mall to speak with our dear victim. I've started to make the rounds, and I'm getting a lot more familiar with the neighborhood. And I am specifically seeing if there's anything amiss, or if I think anybody else might be snooping around. Maybe, maybe that. Oh, he kind of thinks there's a small amount of excitement. He is pretty sure it's the blood bond that Carlotta may arrive again, or maybe Fisk. It's been what now? Almost a week and a half now.
Mm.
He can't risk it, but he knows himself. He's experimented and done this long enough to know how long to wait. Still, if you can hunt down thin blood for more permanent use, shall we say, that would be a little bit more appreciated.
And you don't necessarily have a supernatural way of being able to tell if someone is of kindred nature. Really, all you have to go on is the telltale signs of if someone isn't under the influence of the blood to make themselves look more lively.
And yet, experience has shown that many do not until they must.
Mm.
Especially if you are hunting in my domain. That means you're desperate. That means you don't have the blood to him burn.
Mm.
I've thought this through. I'd like to think very carefully. It's such a wonderful honeypot I have set up. But I am looking about, and let's see here. I believe that would end up giving me. Lane would be the ability to find what's in my domain, as well as wits plus investigation.
Yep.
Would that be correct? Or resolve? I'm taking
Um,
my time with it if you wish, but
Resolve would be applicable for taking your time. Wits would be applicable if it's a higher dice pool. Um, but yeah, with your lane would add to being able to gather rumors, to investigate and figure out what exactly is going on. Ooh, nice. Traveling, traveling through the domain, you spend the better part of an hour and a half, 2 hours, gathering what it is that you feel is pertinent information. You you find a lot that has to do with the upcoming summer festivities for the city. Lots of people are excited at the mall for the newest trends, the newest just hangouts and things of that sort. In speaking to your ghost friend at the mall, this Carlotta girl has been back to visit, but you get the impression from the visitor that she doesn't come with the intent to feed, or at least so far as he knows, and has tailed her and things of that sort. She never seems to indulge in that way. Always seems to be
fantastic.
conversations, walking around, maybe doing the
Hmm.
same as you, but has is always with a particular group of friends. Never
Hmm.
ventures very far from them.
Fair enough. I take what information I can about these group of friends and Carlotta. I would like to see her again, but that might be dangerous.
Hmm.
Still, what's a little bit of danger?
Especially since the last time that you saw her, you took blood from her.
To be fair, I also replenished her. But now that that little bit of a misunderstanding has been cleared up, we can be the best of friends, I'm sure. But
Sure.
has she been around recently? Was she around tonight?
She was around last night, but hasn't been back tonight.
Well,
Since the mall is his hangout, your ghost friend, he kind of likes that particular place is his haunt. That's where he plans to spend the better part of his nights at this point.
not like he has much choice, but
Mm.
still, I do thank him. And I do try and give him some appeasement.
He does ask you about Alfonso.
Well, let's see. When it comes to Alfonso, let's just say that his penance has only just begun. I expressed that he, much like, well, actually, let me check my notes here, just to be sure. Terry, there we go, Mr. Blair.
Mm.
Um, no, Mr. Blair. When it comes to Alfonso, Alfonso was, as promised, torn to pieces by a particularly vicious sword.
Mm.
Survived, is currently licking his wounds, and is in the grasp of one of my proteges. So I assure you he will be at it for quite some time. Till when he gets torn to pieces again, and again, and again. Your moment of suffering was, and life taken was, eternal. You can rest easy knowing that that privilege is now afforded to him.
If there's a such thing as resting easy.
Well, speaking as one dead thing to another, I don't think it ever gets easy, but you make the best of it. Do it. Is there anything else I can do for you, Terry?
No, just keep me updated on whether or not he gets actually destroyed at one point. I would like to know.
Oh, it gives me a reason for living. Still, I appreciate the service that you do in this. And I think together we will be having a very fruitful friendship. Out of curiosity, have you run into others who seem to see you?
I haven't particularly noticed. I've been keeping my eyes on that one purple haired girl.
Well, we'll have to
Fixated.
admit it. You like her.
I like her well enough.
Well, I'll have to introduce you to at some point.
She already doesn't like me.
Oh,
She's seen me. She's seen me follow her. Not that she hasn't can do anything about that, really.
yes, well. I suspect that in time she'll end up having to adjust. Suffice it to say that if she has earned your ire, it's something that can be amended. Thank you very much, Terry.
And thank you, Urien.
He turns away, starts to look around the mall. Not that I imagine it's well past closed at this point, but
Oh yeah.
he does walk around and continues trying to. Specifically, he's trying to track down. If she keeps coming here with her friends, I have to assume that maybe while she's not local since she drives, domain speaking,
Hmm.
perhaps one of her friends or more are. I think that would be a fascinating bit of leverage.
Hmm.
I believe I remember their faces from the last time.
According to Terry, she does still roll with the same group, so since it is well past closing, the the reason to be here at the moment is lower than any other typical night. With the mall closing for summer hours at 10, 11 p.m. these nights, it makes a great hangout spot for those who are looking to shop. It would make a pretty good feeding ground, but the fact that she's not feeding there probably speaks more to the fact that she doesn't want to be caught by you.
Probably the smartest decision she's made in the past week. But that being said, she might not be wanting to be found by me, but I don't have to look for her. I just have to find her friends.
Mm.
Now,
How do you plan on finding them without her?
mm, that will take some time.
Mm.
I believe first and foremost that I have, ooh, actually, oh, but it's late. I would hate to wake her. Hmm. No, that would. Let me just double check something here. No, no, that wouldn't work. No, at this point, I am simply on the lookout, and I may even head back home.
Hmm.
I'm waiting for Clovis to drop something off for me. Maybe he left it in the mailbox. Hopefully, he's not that foolish.
Hmm.
But, nevertheless,
What are you expecting to get from Clovis?
well, Clovis does have particular research material. It's not like I have a library of arcane lore and features of study to continue.
Hmm.
I am fairly far from a chantry, and I really do not wish to end up joining one. I think pardon. I think that unto itself is one of the core reasons I am not, or I have become. Anarch. No goddamn chantries.
There's
Too much trouble.
no
Go
chantry
ahead.
in San Antonio. The Trebeers do still keep in contact with each other simply because of clan ties and the study of the arcane being one of their primary focuses. But you don't particularly like associating with others, do you?
Well, not particularly. There are some things I'd rather keep secret.
Mm.
Clovis is one I tolerate, but until somebody says we're having an Anarch Tremere function and attendance is mandatory, I would rather avoid the topic.
Mm.
There is particular things they are very good at finding out, and I'd rather not use that until I have the appropriate leverage to cover myself. Still, after continuing one last little sweep and heading over back to our dear home, parking the van,
Mm.
looking about, again, sense the unseen, observing. It's just a habit at this point.
Mm.
I've dealt with Nosferatu for so long since I got in San Antonio now, ever since the host was made, that it's now just become almost habit. Guess it could be worse. I could be dealing with Malkavians.
Could be.
No, I think. So I go home.
Mm.
I check the mail. Not that I'm expecting anything.
There's nothing in the mailbox.
Yeah. And I start to look up or pull out the map, looking at my own domain, looking at residences, particularly places that look like, well, wealthy suitors. I will admit, the one thing I hate is this damnable curse of ours. The thing about Tremere is we're not good people, persons, and we can't exactly flex on it. We can command, but that's about it. Still,
When you arrive and you have been settled in for a moment, there is a knock at your door.
hmm. And I check the peephole real quick. If it doesn't look like I'm about to get raided by FBI, I presumably open the door.
And perhaps there is one person that you were expecting tonight at least.
Uh, Good
He's
evening, Clovis.
clutching a tome in his hands.
He opens the door for him and welcomes him in. Clovis, I'm glad you've joined me this evening.
Good evening, Mr. Doyle. I have come to impart on you what I promised.
He extends his hands and places them upon the tome. If our, go ahead.
I do expect you to treat this with care.
If you're worried about me dog-earing the pages, I can assure you I do keep bookmarkers.
Good to know.
Still, won't you come in? He closes the door behind Clovis.
He moves into the front room and kind of looks around himself, kind of observing for a moment. Then his eyes fall back on you. So,
Saw something interesting.
not tonight.
He places the book in front of him, kind of just gives it a gander, look, quick flip through just to see what, get a just understanding of what the contents might be.
Based on the first couple of pages that you rifle through, you know that this tome is old. The pages feel as if, in a moment's notice, they could crumble.
Hmm.
And looking through it, you begin to realize that this is a history of San Antonio, but in a kind of supernatural sense. Strange
Fascinating.
sightings, different historical events that seemed weird.
I will be sure to make sure it's returned to you in the condition it was given.
I appreciate that. You not being a local, I figured it would be important information for you to know.
I appreciate the thoughtfulness, Clovis. But I do wonder, what keeps you busy these nights? You said it yourself, I'm not exactly local, and I think I've made it very clear I have no interest in returning to a chantry. So,
I,
what would what do the Tremere of San Antonio do? I have to wonder.
typically, most of the fellow Tremere that I know involve themselves in research and development in the medical field, My,
Medicine.
myself included.
Then I must seem like an odd duck to you all.
Hmm, quite an odd duck.
That's alright, it takes all kinds.
And
But,
no, there's no formation of a chantry. We simply understand that not everyone understands our clan.
well,
Some call us magic thieves.
magic thieves. Oh,
The sorcery of the
word
blood.
that.
Hmm.
Yeah. If they thought it was magic we stole, then they're woefully misinterpreting.
Hmm.
But I suppose that ignorance is useful these nights.
Hmm.
What are you studying then? You yourself are in the medical field, a doctor, perhaps?
I pride myself as a physician of sorts, mostly in
Mm.
research.
What sort of research?
Pharmaceuticals, mostly.
Pharmaceuticals. So if it's in pharmaceuticals, huh? He kind of smiles a little bit.
Something pique your
That's
interest.
everything interests me, Clovis. I
Hmm.
should I say Doctor Clovis?
Just Clovis is fine.
Very well then, Clovis. Everything interests me. That's part of my charm, you see. I look at things, and some people will research and delve deep. Others, very good at putting things together. Me, I'm a bit of both. I see things, I see how things are set up, and I see how the cookie crumbles, so to speak.
Hmm.
So, when I have a friend over who is willing to impart such a gift, well, I appreciate that friend, and I like to know more of who exactly I'm dealing with. And I thought I would end up asking you because, well, I do not have any need to make enemies just yet. And the enemies I already have are either already in the ground or soon to be.
Mm. I'm glad to not be counted among them.
No, not at all. Uh,
Now,
did,
my hope is that we can foster a friendship because we Tremere need to stick together after all. The other clans, as much as they try not to judge, some of them don't like us.
and why should they? We are.
Call us
We
warders
can.
of knowledge.
Yes.
Part of the reason we
Well,
embrace, isn't it?
partly. Though, if you've ever. I'm assuming, Clovis, you've never dealt directly with an elder.
I can't say that I have.
Consider yourself fortunate, or else you would get a truly unfortunate history lesson that would make your blood curdle.
Oh. And you have.
Mm,
A young man such as yourself.
remember, I end up asking questions, and I have a point of putting pieces together. For instance, I know that it's likely Tom didn't get that up all by himself. Dr. Christensen likely needed help getting that practice set up.
It's
And
still
if
in the
that is
works.
the
It's not actually started yet.
true, but in order to even get it started, permits and what have you, you need friends. And if you just came in with a green card, that's a little bit difficult. Unless you have friends in the medical field. Clovis, do you count yourself as such a friend to Dr. Christensen?
A new friend, but yes.
Well, given his need for psychology, I think his expertise would come in very handy with the pharmaceuticals that you may be testing. I would suggest bring it up with him when you get the opportunity.
I shall.
Yeah. That being said, I am also dismayed.
Oh.
Truly, my heart is broken.
I'm sorry to hear that. Over what?
Oh. Well, you see, I am a little bit of a. Let's say I'm a little territory. And I was given this domain in good faith.
Hmm.
Now I have one simple courtesy I request.
Hmm.
If you are to come into my domain, be it for pleasure or feeding, simply let me know that you are here. If you do not, then of course I have to end up laying the law down as directed by our dear Baron. Because of this, unfortunately, if I recall, Toreador named Carlato has been entering in and out of my domain
Hmm.
and hasn't so much as said hello.
That is quite odd.
Yes. Uh, at the
You
very
also don't
least,
pride yourself in owning a cell phone, though.
No, but
Makes it
there
rather
is a
hard for
bunch.
someone to get a hold of you unless they know where your domicile is.
Weeds out the stupid quite quickly, doesn't it?
Uh, so the only real way for someone to get in contact with you is if you want to contact them.
That's generally the gist of it, yes.
Mm.
So, if you are to end up coming in, would you not go out of your way to end up asking for the weird, yeah, yeah, blonde man with the bowl cut?
You do kind of stand out in a crowd, I will not lie.
Part of it comes down to trying to end up finding your place. I found mine not too long ago. But the reason I bring this up is I was wondering if you know anything about the Carlotta. I'm aware of their sire, but
Did you get their
they.
sire's name then?
Let me double check if I did. Sorry, my cat kind of started using my notes as a scratching post.
Oh no.
Uh, yeah, so there's like bits of it I'm missing.
Oh no.
Let's see here. Carlotta, Carlotta, Carlotta. Alfonso. Motel.
If I remember correctly, you also used Taste of Blood on her when you fed off of
Oh,
her,
I
right?
did. I did.
Then
And I
I'll give
know.
that to you for free for if you can't find it in your notes.
No, I don't. I don't see it in my notes, but that's probably because I got like 3 pages of notes right now.
You know his name to be Antonio Castile.
Castile. Yep, I remember. Okay. Yes, Antonio
Antonio.
Castile.
Ha, okay. That's interesting. I may actually know that man. Also, a
Yes.
doctor. PhD, actually. Also a medical researcher.
Sounds like there's quite a lot going on in the field right now.
There's always a lot going on in the field here in San Antonio, Urien. We pride ourselves in being one of the top development cities in research and medicine. We have a whole university dedicated to that. In fact, I want to say though that Castile's expertise is more in the technology side of medicine.
And yet he embraced Carlotta.
Probably because of some. I don't know her particularly, but possibly because she has skills of her own in that regard.
Maybe. Or maybe he just found her cute one night.
Hmm,
It's a Toreador. They can be flighty.
that's entirely possible.
Not clean and precise. But,
Not always.
that being said, she spends a lot of time at the mall. I'll have to see if I can run into her at an earlier point. You, on the other hand, have me a little bit curious.
Oh. As if the book didn't pique your curiosity enough.
I am always curious.
Curiosity killed the cat, though. Be
But
careful with it.
satisfaction brought it back.
Mm.
And let's be honest here, Clovis. I've already died. It didn't stick.
Ah, kindred humor. Delights me.
Still, I am glad that one as young as I have has at least impressed you a small amount. It brings me joy to know that I can hang with some of the bigger dogs in the city in that regard.
Mm. Well, you always know where to find me.
I know how to call you, how to find you is a different story.
Mm.
But who knows? Maybe I'll slip a tracker on your in your watch some year. Though
Oh,
I
good luck with
suppose
that.
by then we'll be sewing microchips into our skin.
Ooh, not entirely sure I'd be a fan of that.
No, I imagine not. But that's the way the world is turning. We're gonna need to end up finding ways to get around that one.
That we
maybe we
will.
can maybe we can invent some form of artificial skin to layer over.
Hmm.
Fun
Ideas.
times had by all.
If you ever decide that you want to flesh out some of those ideas, do let me know.
Well, there is one
Hmm.
I had, but oh no, I don't think you would be up for it.
My curiosity is piqued, Mr. Doyle. You do realize that the entire reason that some of us are embraced is because of our curiosity. Our unwillingness to let it go sometimes.
I understand that.
That
Mm,
perfectionism comes up sometimes.
all too often. But what I was alluding to
Hmm.
right now, I am finding myself in need of, shall we say, starter capital.
Starter capital.
Now, I'm sure I can acquire that in a very short period of time. But when I do, the medical field and all of the things that implies,
Hmm.
well, let's just say that certain chemicals are harder to create than others. And
Hmm.
particular acids used for cutting, if I recall, there is a lot of little detail that you could appreciate. But the logistics of getting such things can be tricky.
Hmm.
But more tricky, I imagine, for you, and given how far your experiments may go, I imagine test subjects also become difficult.
Well, because tests do have to be documented and done over periods of time, sometimes upwards of 20 years, you learn to be patient.
If you were doing it on the books,
Yes, you're talking about
not
something off the books.
we exist in a world of shadow. We exist beyond the veil. So, the second that you, and he pops his fangs, receive these,
Hmm.
it was very clear that the world's rules stopped applying quite some time ago.
And yet, to maintain the masquerade, sometimes we do have to follow those rules.
Mhm. And this is why it helps to have friends like me. But, like I said,
What is this venture that you hope to start?
he pulls his fangs back in. I think I've already told you enough.
Hmm.
If your curiosity is not satiated, perhaps we'll run down that rabbit hole a little further. Unless there's any other pressing business that we have. It is getting late,
It is.
and I've had quite the evening. There's only a few hours before the sun it comes up, and
That
I
is
would
true.
not have you trapped in my little hovel.
It's a nice hovel.
This is a meeting place, nothing more. My haven. Well, let's just say that I don't shit where I eat.
Mm, fair enough.
He walks to the door, opens it up for Clovis. Have a good evening, Clovis, and if anything comes to mind or you need anything, please do give me a call.
Of course. And he begins to walk out of the house and towards the street where his car is parked.
It is so hard not to eat that man some days. Ugh,
Oh, it would be tasty, wouldn't it?
it would, but it would be a one and done at that point, and I need him for a little while longer. But if he slips up enough that even Baron Delgado can't tolerate him, I know of a place to hide him. He'll never be found.
Can
Still,
we eat him then?
possibly.
I look forward to it.
Mm, don't look too far ahead.
You are always looking ahead, so I can't die.
Because one of us ends up panicking when somebody lights a match.
Hmm. Touche.
Unless you have a bright idea right now. Let us focus on the task at hand. He looks to the book and starts to use sense the unseen on it, just checking for wards, tides, maybe some kind of weird gemstone that might be embroidered in the pages.
You don't see anything more than the the faint kind of spiritual energy that arcane magic tends to give off, but nothing that specifically writes a spell or a ward or any kind of any kind of like tracking or anything like that at this point. It seems that Clovis is trusting you implicitly with this.
Or it's just a small crumb in his actual collection and something he wouldn't mind losing, so it's safer to test with this. Either way, I am in no position to complain. I open the book and I begin to apply study. I keep in mind the ward in my own haven
Mm-hmm.
right now, and I'm trying to end up thinking on how to approach it. I start to read, trying to think on what I can end up applying to, and starting to think on how I'm going to have to get around my particular hang up. The worst part about this whole situation is trying to fuel my own abilities. It always comes back to blood. But
It does.
thankfully, when it comes comes to my own clan is capable of so much. So I start to read, I start to study, I start to apply its history, San Antonio.
And I believe that is where we will take a quick break. Thank you all for watching San Antonio by Night so far. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Yay!
Welcome back, everyone. We left Urien studying a book that he received from Clovis. A book that would detail the history of San Antonio in a strange happenstance kind of way. In and spending time reading and carefully rifling through pages and things, Sir Urien is spends the rest of the night doing just that. So on the following night is where we pick up after this break here. And there are some things that Urien has been wanting to get up to as far as finding a specific person who's been kind of prowling around the domain and perhaps is going to go and look for that person tonight. So, Urien, if you would give me another rouse check, please.
Already ahead of you.
And you are... Yes. Even though you were able to stave it off a little bit the previous night, that rumbling in your stomach starts. Probably almost reminiscent of the last time that you felt actual hunger versus the thirst for blood as a kindred does. But it merely only gurgles. There's nothing else, but it's constant. And so, how do you plan on going about your search?
Well, I give it a moment. Give it a chance for people to come in and do what they must. To kind of find myself as I study, cross-index what I can. I even go so far as to take little mental notes on how this document was prepared. It is, after all, a thing of magic, which means it was crafted. I'm curious on how, especially given the age of San Antonio.
Mm.
I make notes of landmarks and potential places of interest that I may need to go and see just to equate myself, not just with the history, but the actual things like where ley lines are suspected to be.
Mm.
All this wonderful magic mumbo jumbo.
It's
Well,
interesting that you use a term like mumbo jumbo.
well, The hardest part is sifting through all the falsehoods and the
Mm.
half truths to get to something that is useful. Still, with this, I hope to be able to at least construct some form of ritual. It'll take time and study.
Mm.
Probably more blood than I am comfortable in using right now, but
Such is the way of sorcery.
it is sorcery. Let us not forget that. But that being said,
That being said, you do wake up around 9 o'clock in the evening. The summer brings the late nights and the early dawns. Recently, with that summer solstice around the corner. And when you do awake, you go about your morning ritual, as I'm sure that you would, checking out the vehicle before making your way towards the different places that you tend to patrol when inspecting your domain, your little piece of heaven. And and again, nothing is out of the ordinary. Everything is perfect and exactly as you left it the night before.
fantastic. This night, unless there is a particular locale of that was mentioned in the book, and I do keep that book nearby. I always keep it nearby. Um,
One of the key landmarks that is mentioned in the book is the Alamo, of course. It's probably
mhm.
the most historically famous site in the entire city. It does make mentions of other little places here and there, but that's perhaps the most landmarkish of supernatural sightings, as it were. There have been these kinds of things in other places in the book, but that is the most famous of landmarks.
Well, I will definitely make it a point to go visit that later on tonight. I believe they close at. They still have closer to evening showings. Won't hope. But that being said, first and foremost, I am tracking my domain and probably pretending to catch a movie at this point.
Hmm.
Specifically, I if my dear Carlotta keeps arriving with her friends, and this has become a routine, I just need to end up figuring out what the routine is.
Mm.
And I suspect it'll take some time to end up getting that all situated.
Bit of a stakeout mission, as it were. So, I suspect that you are making your way towards the mall at this point, then.
That is correct.
So you drive, and the mall is not terribly far from the Coterie Haven. It it seems that there is, and you said that you were going to, with the intention of looking as if you're going to see a movie in this location.
Well, the biggest reason is that gives me a reason to be near food courts, gives me the reason to be around particular points. Because it's hard enough to spot the kindred in a crowd. It's a little easier to poke it out when you realize that somebody isn't eating when they're sitting with a group of people who are.
Mm.
And if they are eating, then they have blood to spare, in which case that means they are not feeding on my particular locale.
Hmm. Okay. So.
Of course, we are talking senses being used, sensi unseen.
Hmm.
After all, I've already caught one Nosferatu in the shape of Fisk. Probably find another.
You make your way through the mall. It does seem that the mall portion of the 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 common areas of the mall are going to be open for a little while longer, but some of the shops have already started to close for the night since it is between the hours of 9 and 10 p.m. at this point, and some of the shops, such as like the jewelry stores and things of that sort, are already have their cages down. You make your way through the food court. There isn't a whole lot of people there at this late an hour, and uh, go ahead and roll me a wits plus awareness or resolve, your choice. Okay. There are a couple of groups that you do see, and uh, they're not particularly big groups. They're probably no bigger than 5 people groups. There's one couple that's kind of sitting, not really not really eating anything, but they're just kind of talking and getting ready to go towards the movie theater in order to also catch a movie themselves because they are you hear their conversation. Um, you do, however, spot Carlotta. She's not doing anything of particular note. She is hanging out with a group of people, but seems to be simply enjoying conversation with these this group of people. That big purple hair is hard to miss.
It is. Stands out quite a bit, almost as much as her earrings.
Mm-hmm. Are you looking to approach? Or are you?
I'm considering. Right now, has she indicated at all that she is aware of my presence?
Not presently,
Mm.
but given enough time, she might.
Mm. Well, it's at that point I would end up saying that this is a perfect time to end up just. I don't go towards the table, but I expressly end up going across, or say from like 3 tables down, directly in her line of sight. I
Okay.
shuffle around the some old tickets and what have you that I have in my hand, as though I'm organizing papers and trying to figure out theater numbers, where if my worried if my seat's going to be taken.
Mm.
But I'm sure to end up giving her a quick look to confirm I see you, you see me,
And it doesn't take
and
long for her eyes to fall on you because she is one of those who seems to be always aware of what's going on around them. She spots you quickly. It doesn't take long at all. And her eyes linger for a moment, and then she goes back to her conversation.
Hmm. He has a slight smile on him when he ends up looking at her. She is a beautiful specimen, no doubt. I can already see one or two reasons why her sire would have ended up taking, but right now, he's simply going to end up giving himself a little bit of breathing space. And I am going to wait to see if she or one of her friends goes off to the washroom alone or what have you. If that if they move as a group, I will follow. And make it very, very or trying to not be too obvious, but it's mostly me minding my own business, but they're just keeping them in mind.
Mm.
I'm also trying to be aware, not only of her, but of other kindred she might have brought along.
Okay.
Because I have this sneaking suspicion. Now, her friends are eating, she is not, or
They're not
they're
really.
just talking.
They're just talking. They don't seem to be eating anything at the moment.
Hmm. Well, then I simply wait and observe. Wait and bide my moment.
Ooh, pardon me.
No, quite alright.
It's not long before the group of them start to get up and make their way towards the theater portion of the mall. They are walking as a group. It But when they do get up, her eyes do catch yours again, and then she goes to guide them towards the theater.
It's at that point he will just patiently observe. He's. I'm not here to interrupt their evening, but there's no way to go about this without being a bit creepy about it. But to be fair, she is not exactly a welcome guest here. But so long as she ends up playing by the rules, I don't see any reason to ruin a perfectly good evening. However, there is something I end up doing. Once I kind of confirm that they're in their seats, and I have no doubt that my little Casper, the friendly ghost, isn't too far away. Probably has been lurking or just hovering nearby since he realized I'm inside the mall rather than speaking out from the outside. Which probably strikes him as a little odd, but something I'm getting used to.
And when you do open up your vision to the supernatural, you do he does let you know that you have caught his eye silently, of course, and but doesn't really linger with you very much. He seems to linger through the theater, but always coming back towards Carlotta.
Hmm. The next time he's in here, or he's within visuals, I kind of gesture Like, come over here without making it too obvious, right? Not that anybody would probably respond. It might just be a weirdo. Not like I'm calling anybody specific over. But when he does, I need you to. I noticed that you keep looking at her. Is she starting to warm to your presence?
I think she's trying to ignore me.
Hmm. Well, I'm sure that she doesn't want to appear crazy.
No, of course not.
Out of curiosity, you've seen the cars that they come in, yes? Her friends?
Hmm.
Yeah. Would you be kind enough? He kind of pulls out a small sheet of paper and one of his many pencils, and he just starts to ask for, license plate, etc., just grabbing information of their vehicles.
Yeah, and he's able to provide that to you.
He folds that up. Fantastic. Well, I appreciate that. We'll make it a point to try and end up getting her in speaking terms with you soon enough. Um, excuse me while I end up making a quick phone call.
And who are you calling?
Hmm. I am calling Doc.
Okay.
Is for what Doc does. She does have a professional level, and that professional level is something I'm going to need to tap into.
It doesn't take long for Doc to answer the phone. She does keep late hours after all.
Of course.
You missed me.
Always. Uh, Unfortunately, I have a little bit of a side thing that is concerning me. You remember the encounter with Father Trent?
Yes,
Yes. Well,
it's hard to forget.
yes. Well, suffice it to say, I need some information. More specifically, I need the few of your boys.
My boys.
I need a tail on a couple of vehicles. Just figure out where they go. I'll handle it from there. But I
Hmm.
can't be in multiple places at once. I know where the cars are. I know when they'll be here departing. I just need someone in a professional capacity who is willing to do a favor.
Okay.
Do you think you might have some clients who might owe you one or two?
I might have somebody.
Nothing dangerous. I'm not asking them to put their lives on the line. I'm just asking for, hey, I need a few addresses and any other information. Don't approach, just casual tale,
Hmm.
and there you go.
Okay. Since this is a business call, what am I getting in return?
Well, you see, the thing is that I am actually in a contact with a particular, shall we say, defense attorney, who
Hmm.
I think might be looking for work. Very good. And I might be able to end up helping out in particular cases involving your boys, so to speak.
Hmm.
So on the professional level, I'm capable of giving you a little bit on that front. Does that sound fair? Small favor for a small favor.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. And I give the address for them all, and the cars and what have you. They just ending up in the movies, so they should be out in an hour and a half unless something goes awry. Their cars will be parked out, and I describe because obviously now I know this stuff.
Hmm.
So all I want is their addresses and where I can end up finding these individuals should I need to.
Sounds fair enough.
Thank you very much.
Was there anything else?
There are, but nothing I want to end up saying to you over a payphone.
Hmm.
That's for private doors
Hmm.
and open sheets.
You're such a tease.
That's why you love me.
Hmm.
Take care, Doc.
I love doing business with you.
You always do. He hangs up the phone. So, with that in mind, he simply ends up waiting for Carlotta to end up leaving there, and I'm 90% sure if she suddenly starts to sneak out the back kind of situation using emergency exits or what have you, I'm going to know about it very quickly. And thus far, she doesn't want to appear suspicious,
Hmm.
so she can't make a fuss. So she's got to sit and enjoy the movie. I'll just let her stew on the fact that I'm outside.
Hmm. And the movie goes on without a hitch. She stays in her seat. She stays with her friends. She doesn't move. She simply watches the movie. And when the movie is over and all the patrons are filing out, she is attempting to lose herself in the crowd.
Well, I continue to do what I can to follow along.
Okay.
Though I believe I already know what car she drives, so unless she's hopping vehicles, it should be fairly easy to intercept. I don't have to follow her, I just need to know where she's going.
Hmm.
Given the fact that I already have her own name and license plate, which is one of the well, no, is not one of the ones I actually gave. I do not want her to think yeah, I'm tailing.
Hmm. So it's just to be clear, it's just the friends that you're having tailed.
It's the friends.
Okay.
Because once I have them, it doesn't matter where she goes. She'll come.
Okay. Oh, pardon me. Do you intend to meet her at her car?
Oh, most certainly. Most certainly.
Okay. High or low?
Let's do high.
So, upon filing out of the theater, you lose sight of her for a moment because of the crowd, but you do know, as you said, where her car's going to be, and you make it there before she does. And it isn't long before she you can see her coming towards the vehicle, but as soon as she sees your blonde hair in that particularly unique haircut for this particular day and age, she stops for a moment, but then continues to walk forward.
I can't help but smile in her presence. Feel a little bit more at ease around her. Then I need to remind myself why that is. Uh, Carlotta, I hope you enjoyed the movie.
I did. I'm not
Why do you
causing a
look so
problem.
tense? No, of course not. Of course not.
Then what are you doing
It.
here? What do you want?
Nothing much, just the world on the string.
World on a string.
I hear it makes one hell of a yo-yo.
Interesting. Okay. Um, that doesn't explain what you're wanting with my car.
Oh, your car I have absolutely no interest in. It's you, of course.
As I said, I'm not causing a fuss.
No, you're not. And I don't want to repeat of last time. You don't want to repeat of last time.
No.
So I have to end up wondering. Right.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, have you talked with Mr. Castellic recently?
She pauses a moment. Yes?
And what did he have to say about the whole incident?
Nothing. Nothing at all.
Well, I suppose it's just safer to presume you're lying in the fact that you don't want to tell me anything. You're highly uncomfortable around me, which is understandable.
You're a fucking creep.
Of the best kind. But the doctor is also a bit of a creep. So it seems you're just surrounded by them. That being said, I wanted to express a point of apology.
Apology.
That it, yes, if I have wronged somebody in any way that I perceive, I apologize. And with you, I apologize in giving some misunderstanding that, this was a one and done deal. You come here regularly, and apparently one of my house guests around here uh, finds you quite attractive, but you don't so much as shoot him a smile in his direction. Are you known for taking hearts and breaking them, as all roses do?
You notice her getting a little uncomfortable.
He looks over to the side, like he makes it very clear he's looking at the same thing she is. Yes, I can see him too.
The reason I come here is because shopping is fun, and I kind of like that part of my life. However, your friend is a fucking creep, and I don't want any part of it. I don't want him anywhere near me. So if he's a friend of yours, then then you know what? That's all the more reason for me to leave.
Oh, I should end up letting you know.
Mm.
I'm going to need you to see another movie. indefinitely. I would say you come down here, what, every 3 days, give or take?
Give or take.
That's good. I would say make it every 3 days to a rhythm. Just every 3 days, come in, see a movie. Bring your friends, invite them. You're all guests in my house.
It's funny how you say that as soon as I don't want to start coming anymore.
You see, here's the thing, Carlotta. I like reliability. It's the unpredictability I don't care for. Part of maintaining this is trying to end up keeping things going. And if you suddenly stop shopping, aren't your friends going to start asking questions? Aren't they going to ask what's wrong? What is it that's putting you off all this? And then it turns into a bunch of excuse making that really doesn't help with your personal masquerade. See, people have expectations of the routines, of things that they come to expect. They know you, we
I
meet up, we go to the mall, we have a laugh, we enjoy, we all drive our separate ways.
The nice thing about how big this city is Ingram Mall isn't the only mall around here, buddy. I can go to South Park. I can go to North Star. I can go anywhere I want. I can even go downtown if I wanted.
Well, that's absolutely true.
So why do you want me here?
Like I said, I like predictability. And because you have such an exquisite face. You see, Carlotta, you don't have to like me. And I get I am not the most likable of individuals. The nice part is that I don't have to be. What I have to be is a reminder. Because you can go to other places and they might be a little bit looser with the rules. Completely possible. But the thing about being loose with the rules is that eventually that also means they don't have to apply when they're there to help you. At least with me, you know exactly what you get.
How does going to the movies every 3 days benefit me?
You get to end up enjoying culture. You get to enjoy the shopping. You get to enjoy having a moment with people who are still breathing. But let me be clear here. Things can go awry. Things can go wrong. And then all of a sudden, if you don't show up, then I'm going to have to come up with ways to get you to come here on your own accord. And those are far less pleasant. Now we can be friends, and we can help one another out. Or, well, I'd rather not cross that bridge.
Or what, you'll attack me again?
I was thinking something along the lines of, well, let's just say I have a lot more experience in this than you ever will. And usually, when somebody is coming up to you and trying to be civil, they're usually very comfortable with not being so.
Okay. So say I do this for you.
Mm-hmm.
You still haven't outlined how that benefits me aside from the fact that I get to keep shopping here.
Uh, well, here's the thing. In my mind, what you would be doing at that point is Every 3 days, you come see a movie in a very public place that where a lot of thin blood such as yourself would probably come in.
Thin
And
blood?
we have a bit of an infestation problem.
I'm not thin blood, buddy.
No, 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 I did not make that accusation to you. But that little specter that you just ended up mentioning, the reason he keeps an eye on you as he does is because one of ours, a thin blood, killed him.
Hmm.
So what he's really trying to do is make sure that incident doesn't happen to anyone else.
Really?
So you understand when he is aware that there is a lick running around,
Hmm.
that there's a potential for something to happen. That is why I was here. But if I know that you're here every 3 days, suddenly I don't have to look here because I know Carlotta has it all covered. And the benefit to that is also when you need it, I might be able to look the other way should you choose to feed in this domain. Which means now you don't have to end up running around. Which also means a little less complications for everybody. And Antonio doesn't have to end up hearing you cry about how the tiny blonde man is picking on you. I think that's a fairly straightforward arrangement. I
Wordy.
don't have to worry.
You use a lot of words. You could have easily just said that.
I could have. But then again, there's a lot of things I could have easily just said.
Okay. And what do you want me to do with just keep an eye on place? Keep an eye on them all? Is
All
that
I
what I'm
want to
doing
know,
essentially?
all I want to know is, hey, there's somebody who screwed up and made a mess in your backyard. I would like to know who, and I will deal with them. You, on the flip side, well, I don't know. Might end up suddenly coming into a small amount of cash that says, hey, guess what? Shopping spree. Free to use however you wish. Consider it a payroll with benefits of being able to dine.
Hmm.
We don't have to be enemies here, Carlotta.
You just being my employer.
If that's how you wish to see it.
Okay. I don't
I
mind doing a job. But as soon as I say I quit, if I
then
decide
I
I
will
quit,
then I will terminate all ties. You won't come here. I won't go find you. And that'll be it.
cool. I can work with that.
I will drop in from time to time for nothing more than a hello, how's it going? Have you seen anything? And we'll take it from there one evening at a time.
So about your ghost friend. Is he sticking around too?
Well, Unlike you and I, he doesn't have the option to leave. However, I could make it clear that he is to try and make himself less present. Look elsewhere because you already got that room covered. Does that sound fair?
That's fair.
Obviously, you'll run into each other. Just acknowledge his presence. Think of him as a uncomfortable coworker.
Yeah.
Be polite, be respectful, and if he doesn't, well, let's just say that us dying wasn't the worst thing that could happen. And the same falls true for him. I'll get to work on something for you. I'm sure it'll make you a little bit more comfortable.
All right.
Take care of yourself, Carlotta.
And you as well. What was your name?
Everybody who works with me knows me as Mr. Doyle.
Mr. Doyle.
Now, I hope to see you in 3 days. And if not, well, then I will consider that a rejection and I will terminate all ties.
Fair enough.
Fantastic. He steps out of the way and starts walking.
And she goes to get into her car.
He takes
And
a note.
locks the door as she gets in.
I walk by the apparition that is haunting the place. She is requesting her space. Do you think you can abide that?
If a non-corporeal form could roll its eyes, because he barely has any kind of shape to him, but it's almost as if he apparates eyes just to roll them a little bit.
She's on the payroll, so at the very least she can cut down your travel time. But
Speaking of payroll, is there anything that you could offer me by the fact that I'm doing this for you too? I don't know what it is that I can do in this form.
you looking about is enough. But I might be able to help you, teach you. The question, I guess, is if I do that, does that suddenly make me. That makes me very responsible, in fact, of what you can do.
That is true.
But if you're wanting to hang around for a few decades, fantastic. If not,
I'll eventually want to move on.
I'm unsure on what you'll find there. But let's not rush the decision. When we have centuries to worry about, it seems a little hasty to make it only less than a month from when you died. Nevertheless, she made it very clear she's apprehensive between you and I. Unfortunately, remember what I was saying about the rules between me and her are very different than the rules of those walking around. I told her I will terminate all ties. Her reason to coming here are those group of people that she carries around. She leaves, and I'll give her one more reason to come back after she's buried them all. I am deadly serious in my business. And in this, if she does not know how to behave, I don't think she realizes what she's dealing with.
Who knows if any of us know what we're dealing with?
Too true. Too true.
I didn't know any of this existed before I died.
You
Funny
know,
that.
to be fair, when I died, the penny farthing was just coming into style.
That's old.
I know. Don't look a day over 21.
You look good for your age. You're a little out of style with that haircut.
Funny thing about trends, they always come back around. I mean, if bell bottoms come back one more time, I think they'll technically make them come back more times than you or I. So, with that in mind, good evening.
Good
And I
evening.
think I'm going to take the evening off. Rest, study. I take one last look around. And I'm gonna just kind of casually hunt as I go by.
Okay.
I'm not gonna spend a lot of time. It's more like, do I see anything on the return trip?
Are you looking to be particularly picky?
Particularly picky.
Particularly picky in that you would feed on a human? Your
You know
beast.
what? I'll look for both. I'll look for both, but if I'll consider it if I'm getting to the end of the drive and I haven't run into anything, we'll just start looking for humans. But if I end up running into something along the way,
How,
looking for preferences.
okay. How do you plan to pick up on someone being kindred, given your feeding style?
Hmm. The biggest thing is much like the reason I use the mall. The mall is a place for people, a place where a large amount of people go, a place that is obvious for people to go.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not a lot of them around here in my domain. There's a few, but not a lot.
Not a lot.
Means I just gotta swing past them.
Mm-hmm.
That reduces how much of an area I'm hunting. As for what am I looking for, well, there's particular back roads, there's particular outies, there's particular things that just stand out. Um, and I've spent some time around alley cats. I've spent some time around sirens. I'm looking for telltale signs. The har- that's probably the thing that makes this harder.
Okay.
Honestly, is the fact that we're adding. I think that's where the plot or the increase in difficulty comes in, is the fact that we're trying to use telltale signs rather than, hey, I can just see kindred.
Mm.
So
I would say that on top of the difficulty that you have for chase, it's at a increased difficulty of 3. So how do you
so
plan on going about this? Are you planning to mingle amongst people? Are you planning to jump
I'm
somebody in
just
an
driving.
alley?
I'm just driving.
Okay.
Now, if I have to run somebody over, that'll be hilarious, but wouldn't be the first time. Now, as far as chase goes, we're at a 3+, and you said you're increasing it to a 6.
Increasing it to 6 because you're looking specifically for telltale signs of kindred while
Okay,
driving.
yeah, fair enough. So primarily this is an intellectual exercise, kind of like that's how I'm narrowing it down anyway,
I would
I
say
imagine.
that this is a resolve plus awareness at first.
Resolve plus awareness.
It's difficulty 6 to spot somebody you think is kindred.
All right. Well, at least so long as I get 3, at least then I know I fed. But we're looking for 6 to avoid a stain.
Oof.
Mm,
Let's see here.
nope.
There are no bestial failures in that.
Are you say you're using the Detroit house rule for this?
I'm wondering if I'm kind of trying to think if there's a cost that I could apply to you if you want to succeed at a cost.
I'm trying not to go into my VTM workshop right now. But in my early days, when you might remember, I used to always use health and willpower
True.
as just if you when in doubt, there you go.
Willpower. Yeah.
Unless you got a plot hook you want to interject, and it's like, oh, this could be a good time. But that's my own thoughts on it. You run it how you choose to. I will make the decision.
Okay. To spot somebody, I would say that at a cost would be an aggravated willpower.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take that.
Okay. So driving along, you there's a small group of people. It's just on the edge of your domain. And there's a couple of people there that, seem to be enjoying conversation, kind of being lively and just kind of walking through the street and keeping their eye on things, but more focused on their own conversation. The third person seems to be less concentrated on the conversation and more concentrated on the people themselves. And this is kind of what tips you off. You've seen that look. You've seen that look dozens of times, hundreds of times. That's the look of somebody waiting for the opportunity. That, yes, this person might be friends with the people that they're following. Hell, they may not even know that that person's following them. They don't seem to really acknowledge the person's presence all that much. You start to wonder, is this person using obfuscate? You start to wonder if naturally you've begun to, given how interested you are in seeing the unseen, that it just kind of switches on without you really thinking about it.
Could be. So we're treating this as a success, or just as we are doing a full feeding scene?
This is the feeding scene.
Okay, so still gonna have to figure out how to do it in this situation then.
You still have
Okay.
to be able to. You still have to be able to feed on them, but you have spotted them.
Um, Given how they look, how they approach, anything like that, I imagine it'd be tough. But is there a chance I might have heard of this person before?
Um, Let me look at your politics rating here, because I might just
It's
give
a
this
four. It's a four with a specialty in Camarilla.
plus intelligence. Yeah, you have like a huge dice pool for that. Uh,
I'm well read and I do a lot of research.
it's true. You you suspect this person. This person doesn't necessarily have a face that's very familiar to you. You suspect that might be because they don't have a lot of presence in this city.
Hmm.
But if you were to find out a name, you might be able to find something out or remember something about them. But just glancing at them, their appearance, you don't see anything notable.
Hmm. I I'm gonna pull the van up just ahead of the group. Park it.
Mm.
I'm gonna step out for a second. Just stretch my legs. Start walking towards the group. So now we kind of have him in a sandwich position, and I make it very clear that I'm at like towards this kindred, that I'm looking at him,
Okay. The
and
the two people that are walking on the sidewalk next do kind of move to one side to politely give you space on the sidewalk since they do see you approaching. And that's when the potential kindred kind of looks at you and and stops a moment, kind of kind of eyes you kind of up and down, not sure what to make of you. Can I help you?
I don't know. Though I am kind of curious, I have not met you before. Well, who is it that I have the pleasure of addressing?
You just call me Damien.
Damien.
Is that name
Oh,
funny to you?
ironic, I think, is the appropriate term.
Ironic. Alright, okay.
Out of curiosity, would my specialty come into play on this one
Which specialty are you talking about?
for politics, specifically Camarilla?
I don't know why that would apply.
I don't know. I do know that's four successes.
Damien. There. You. Yeah, this wouldn't have applied to Camarilla anyway, because this person isn't Camarilla. You can. It's one of those. You can just tell. Like you can tell an Anarch and a Camarilla person, given your specialty, almost at sight. And this person this person just reeks of I don't give a fuck about rules. Sort of. And the name Damien when you think about it, there's maybe one or two Damiens in the kindred world in the Anarchs of San Antonio, and one is of particular note because they are the right hand to Baron Delgado, but the other
Oh,
is a fledgling.
funny about that. Hmm. And I'm assuming that this is not the big time.
You can assume that.
Damien.
Mm,
Hmm. Close relation to Delgado, then.
what of it?
Well, you're currently feeding in my neck of the woods. That's where the concern is.
Right. If you noticed, I'm on the edge of your territory. I was waiting for them to leave.
So you wait for things to end up going over, and I try and make it very clear to everybody. Please introduce yourself before you do anything.
Nobody's doing nothing here, man. I have permission to feed on Delgado's territory. And if I remember right, that includes yours.
Yes, but I'm responsible for the housekeeping here.
Of course.
You and did he tell you what happened to the last one who did so without my express permission?
Remind me again. Funny thing, I don't have the best of memory.
Oh, that's fantastic. In fact, I can show you. He starts to gesture towards the van. I can show you right now. What's left of him is back there.
He confidently follows you to the van.
Fantastic. And uh, a gesture, tell him to go ahead and open it.
And so he goes to open it, but he's keeping his eyes on you.
Oh, that's fantastic. I don't need his eyes. I need him to roll a stamina plus composure.
Okay, impromptu character sheet. Versus what exactly?
Um, that would be versus my intelligence plus discipline in Extinguish Vitae, and since he's feeding, that means he's low on it.
Sorry, what role am I doing?
Stamina plus composure.
Stamina composure. Okay. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah, he fails that bad.
Mm. And you kind of see him double over a little bit, and then just kind of look at you. That's some bullshit.
Yes, but now you're covered in blood, so you can get in the van, or you can be a walking masquerade breach.
Stupid motherfucker. And so he gets in the van.
And this is how you get takeout.
Okay. So you have him in the van now.
Yeah. Does he look like he's at the tail end of a raid for a frenzy?
He he looks like he looks like he's keeping it together pretty well.
Yeah. I grab hold of the little bit of blood that's dripping on my dashboard, or not dashboard, on the rear,
Mm,
and I'm gonna give that a taste of blood.
okay.
And I am going to
Um,
use.
Remind me again what all that gives you.
So it lets me know resonance of the blood. I can identify supernatural. I also can, on a critical, can tell generation and blood potency.
Mm.
Paired with the ritual,
Do
I
you
can.
have the ritual prepared?
Hmm, remember how he used it specifically crafting or putting the template at the back of the van a couple of times ago?
Okay. It does still have a casting time, doesn't it?
Mm,
Or does it not?
you wanna know what? I can wait. I can wait. This time I'm just gonna use the base one
Okay.
because if this guy has, that's one. I'm gonna spend a willpower,
Okay.
and I am going to re-roll not just the two failures, but I'm gonna re-roll one success.
Okay.
Ah, damn. All right,
That
so that's
does
six.
give you a total of 6. Okay.
Yeah. So I can identify. I can identify blood potency.
I thought you
I
said
know that
crit was the blood potency.
on a crit, I can do if they've done Diablerie and what their generation is.
Ah, okay.
But blood potency, if it's zero blood potency, I know this is a thin blood.
Blood potency and resonance. You, the last person that this individual fed on was caloric in nature, and the blood potency is 2.
Two? Fantastic. Okay. I can't feed on them. All right. Well, it's at this point I'm going to just drive along and I'm just going to unlock the door and I'm going to say, wait here for a second. Random wino on the side, use dominate just as I'm passing them. Go in the back of the van and let nature take its course.
So you're using dominate, compel.
Yep.
I do not have a character sheet for this person. I'm.
Oh, don't worry about it. No, this is for some random wino to
Oh, okay.
feed Damien.
Okay. Yeah. Then this person gets directly in the back of your van. This person is just some rando off the street.
Bon appetit.
A few moments go by. Then you see the door open, and uh, and then Damien's there, just kind of looking at you. The person that you put in the back of the van is dazed, hasn't gotten out yet.
Okay. I grab hold of the man and I drag him out onto the pit. It hit a sidewalk. Maybe he tripped and fell, had a dizzy spell, banged his head. I don't care.
Mm.
But I close the door and I start driving to a wonderful pay car wash. And as I do so, I'm having a conversation with Damien. So, Damien,
Mm,
while I do respect the fact that you are Delgado's right hand man,
mm-hmm.
do understand I take my job absurdly seriously, as I'm sure you do.
Yes,
I
I'm
think
sure.
that has been demonstrated. So, let me lay down the ground rules. I don't mind you hunting in my little section of domain. All I ever ask from people is to let me know you are in it. If you decide to end up feeding without, so I will strip that blood out of you. If you come and say, hey, I'm here to end up doing some feeding, I am more than pleased to help you with that. And this is one of the cleanest examples I make, and you notice outside of the Baron himself, I apply it equally to everyone.
All right.
Do we understand each other right now, Damien?
Of course.
Fantastic. He parks in one of the coin-operated washers and pulls out some change. Double checks that no one else is there. All right, step out. We're gonna hose you down.
And he goes to do so.
And Urien spares no expense on spraying him, even spraying him in the face one too many times. Just to really get it out of. Cover your eyes.
Mm.
He hoses him down. Now,
All right.
now, the reason I found it funny. In case you didn't know who I am, allow me to reiterate this, Damien.
Oh, I
My
know
name
who
is
you
Urien.
are.
No, you clearly do not. Because if you did, you would have changed your tone very quickly.
Just because
And the
you're
more you,
Delgado's pet. I mean,
no
all of
different
us
from
really
me.
are Delgado's pets. Doesn't mean shit.
You don't seem to like it, even though you're his right hand.
I'm his right hand because I do really good at my own job.
Well, this is just one hand washing the other. So, he puts away the spray gun after getting the back of his van to get whatever little bit might have dripped on, except for the stuff that's inside the back. Now, that being said, let's try that again. My name is Urien Doyle,
As
or
I am
Damien.
aware.
I take my job and the responsibility seriously, and I, at the very least, am pleased to say that this example has shown that I am good at my job as well. So, I will not breathe a word of this to anyone on what has transpired here. This misunderstanding can stay between you and me, because I'm pretty sure it's going to be very hard for people to start taking you seriously if this got out.
Hmm.
I'd rather you keep what reputation you have. So, much like when you're breaking in a new pair of jeans, they get soaking wet and then you just walk them dry. Dry off. Take a moment to think about why this happened. And then, when you're ready to apologize and start anew, well, You will know where to find me. I'm not hard to find.
I've got a little piece of advice for you then. Get yourself a fucking cell phone. You're easier to find and ask when you're available.
Yes, but if I did that, we wouldn't be having these wonderful stories together. He closes the door to the van and starts to back up. Have a fantastic evening, Mr. Damien. He starts to drive off, leaving Damien soaking wet, drenched, forced to walk home from a random car wash, probably further away than he cared to.
And that, I think, is where we're going to end for tonight. Because it's already 20 past. And
Yeah. Why is it everybody tries to roll dirty on Urien? Everybody tries to do it, like as if they're going to get away with it. And all he asks is a little bit of clemency. You know? Say hello, introduce yourself. I'm wanting to feed on your territory. Fantastic. Let me help you out. We'll call it a minor, and we're good. That's all it takes. Instead, I gotta freaking kidnap people. I have to blackmail people. I have to end up having a freaking gun to all their friends' heads without them knowing it. I have to end up dragging out what, as far as I can tell, is effectively either the Hound or Sheriff equivalent for Baron Delgado, and I gotta make him a freaking mess, and I gotta end up then hosing him down. And there's one more thing I'd like to do. Now, I would like to end up doing another taste of blood with the blood that's in the back because he was, bleeding all over the place. And this one I will use a ritual on.
Okay. You're using the blood walk ritual.
Yeah.
Okay. And what does that give you additionally?
It doesn't change anything other than what I can also get, which is success gives me the blood's generation and name a subject as well as the subject's sire.
Okay.
So,
based on your previous successes, I'll just kind of run with that.
okay.
The the name of the individual. His name is. I need to generate a last name, but his name is in fact Damien. Damien Castillo.
Castillo. All right, make a quick character sheet and load it up, and we'll have some fun with Damien later.
His sire's name I'll randomly generate at some point because I do not have a character sheet for him yet. I did not expect to be making up a character at the last minute.
I wasn't expecting you to end up throwing the second in command to be trying to feed on my territory.
I didn't expect it either, but you know what? I went on with it.
Oh yeah, I'm like, I'll run with it. Okay, I'll change this into an opportunity. And I laugh because it's like, okay, if this crits, I might just drop him in one shot, in which case, fantastic. If it doesn't, get in the van.
And generation is 12.
Okay. Well, if at any point I need nom nom noms, I know where to go. All right. Fantastic.
All right. I am creating a character sheet, so I remember to actually create this character at some point.
Okay. Don't get too attached. I might just eat them. But
all right. So, what'd you think?
I love the improv. We're gonna end up having some fun here.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that there's this like plot that's going on around the pharmaceutical industry
Mm.
and the hospitals and all that. And I'm not sure what that's about. If I can find a plot hook that gives me an in with my specialty, I'll probably jump on that.
Mm.
So let's see here. I am gonna have to feed, and this is going to suck. All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. When you're picky.
Okay. Well, didn't want to risk the stain.
Mm.
That being said, um, I am. I guess we're at experience then.
Yep.
Oh, so would you agree that my ambition, I've gotten one step closer because of potentially new employee, blackmail on the one of the heavy hitters in Delgado's neighborhood.
I would definitely say that that's a step towards that, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna use that to heal my aggravated.
Okay.
And yep,
Perfect.
there's
And that's you being full for next session.
yep. And I guess experience at that point.
Since it is solo, and we will probably be having uh, Lori and Spectre Deflector back next week, I think I'm going to just give you a flat 2. And since 4 would kind of like blow things out of proportion a little bit, because when we do solo things, it gets a little bit rough, especially since you've
That's
had
okay.
several solo sessions yourself.
Yep.
So, um, yeah, so 2 experience for you.
Okay.
Got any expenditures you want to do?
I do. I do have some expenditures I want to do. Let me just open up my notes as well, just because I've been chronicling exactly how I've been spending my experience.
Mm.
So that brings me up to 30 experience total, bringing me up to uh, 19, leaving me now with 11. So now I have 11 experience to spend. So, um, I'm going to take. Are we doing the next night right away, or is this going to be something that's going to flow? Or are we going to have a few days between?
Um, are you planning to feed directly after this scene that we just ended, or are you planning on just going home?
That was my intention on just going home. I wasn't going to push it.
Okay.
So,
Then we'll probably pick up either next night or the night after that.
fantastic. Okay. So, with that, um, let's see here. Sorry, I'm currently going through and I'm double checking what I can do. Because I do have enough to bring up one of my disciplines up to 2.
Okay.
Um, I also have enough to throw I could get 3 dot 3 dots worth of backgrounds or specialties. I haven't had enough time with the book, but I think as a very loosely established church, I am going to start with. Okay. First one I'm going to do is I'm going to add herd 1 dot,
I would
which
say you
is
need to have at least one more service and have them dedicated before I can allow that.
okay. All right.
You're
So,
developing it, but you haven't fully established it yet.
okay. If that's the case, ooh, let's see. I can do. Hmm. Well, I can take a specialty. No, I haven't had that long with the book either. Um, but what I can also do, if I recall, let me just double check. Like I said, character creation.
Mm.
Right, you XP for, let's see here. Ritual is ritual level times 3. So let's go to blood sorcery and let's pick out a few rituals that we can work with. Hmm. I think I want to do. I'd be willing to spend 6 points to end up getting. Let's see here. Ward against spirits is makes sense. I've had experience with that ward that's currently in my haven.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Okay. And I have enough for another low tier one. So let's do. Hmm. That'll be tough, but I'll also do ward against ghouls at this point.
Ward against ghouls. Okay.
Yeah,
So that's 9 experience total?
that would be 9 experience total.
Okay.
Leaving me with 2, and yeah, I'll do the math and type it all in. So I think
Perfect.
that's game.
All right.
Perfect.
Perfect. You have learned yourself a couple of rituals by staying in the haven that you are in and how wards work.
Yep. I think it just makes sense. The easiest thing he would learn is I have a ward. I've studied wards. The principle's the same. The details is what changes what it wards. So
Exactly.
I think that makes the most sense for like why he picks it up that quick is just
Mm-hmm.
because we've already been studying it. We're just playing around with it.
Yep. You have nailed down what it is that this ward on your haven is and how to
Yep.
replicate it.
Fantastic. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Well, thank you everyone who came out to watch. I appreciate all of you.
Thank you.
We will be back tomorrow with Caffeine Fix. I am working on a new project, which is a not coterie, party lineup for one of my D&D games. So look forward to that because I have lots of stuff that I'm working on for that. But we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.